interesting world that we live in, and people are actually making careers out of passing on information, and I see how it could be a thing to do because let's face it, I see things like, for example, and then people who will shoot a video of feeding their dogs raw. Um, and you can kind of tell that they've never really done it before, and they're just regurgitating information, and that's okay. I mean, I'm cool. I I'm not trying to point any fingers or anything like that, but at the same time, like for me, I need a whole bunch of anecdotal evidence before I get out there and would show somebody how to do it. And for me, I wouldn't even want to really get out there and show somebody how I feed my dogs. If somebody asked me, I would have, I would tell them what I do, but I wouldn't. I don't know. I just think if you're not like somebody who's had many years of experience, or some heavy duty scientific background or whatever, or a person who has maybe a dozen dogs, and you feed them raw, and you have, you know, uh, some really hardcore evidence of how to do it, and what it looks like, should you be out there doing things like sharing these videos, and it's obvious, but you get a quick 1,000 views. You know what I mean? So I think, so this is what I'm saying is that's just an example. So when you get out there and people, they get these quick views, and it's like, and then they get a bump up in subscribers, and it's one of those things where like you're like, oh great, that's really cool, and so they keep going, and it's it just keeps repeating itself. So more and more you're getting more and more people who are just passing information instead of getting out there and doing it, and uh they're not even regurgitating information from the actual sources like yourself. And
Well, in the world we live in too, um, people want they don't want the truth. They want what they want to hear what they want to hear. So they'll go to one person, and if they don't hear, and let's just use breed a female in the first heat cycle, then they're going to go to somebody else until they get misinformation, maybe by somebody that's you know, and then they're gonna they're gonna run with it, or and people. That's just kind of the world we live in. But I actually spoke to some old dogmen before, and they even speak on a lot of the first literature and stuff being that way. That it was either to sell puppies or something like that. They would get a book out there, and it was like the Bible. If it was written, it had to be true. Kind of like the internet or some of these interviews and stuff. Now, if somebody says it, then by golly, it must be right. So the bull terrier actually has a lot of controversy on some of the books that were written with it, and I'm sure in a number of others. But and people, when we didn't have other people to actually call up and check on, they just believed it. So and it seems now it's this social media aspect of it where, and like you said, views. I mean, drama, all that stuff sells, or just let's be real. How many times can you get talk about a certain thing? So let's try somebody new. Let's get a new face in, or and people are willing to tell you whatever you want to hear just to get their foot in the door, and they're looking at it as it's a golden ticket to sell puppies, and and whatever the case is. I don't know what their reasoning is for it, but it can be a real problem, for someone that really wants to do it right, and doesn't know how to do that.
we're working longer hours, we have less ability to get out there and go see other yards, and things are more expensive in a lot of ways, and then you know it just makes sense that why not take advantage of the things that we have fingertips at our fingertips. And so, but then with that, there comes a whole host of issues, and
Absolutely. Like,
but
I even see interviews where or where people are speaking to owners, right? And so, which, it's harmless and it makes sense. Well, let's talk to an owner of a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, right?
Hmm.
And they're telling you everything about their dog, and maybe that's not the norm, or maybe it's only a year old. And the reason I say this is, it plays with other dogs. It's great with other dogs. It's great with this. It's great with that. Great with, and then suddenly it turns on, or it has, it gets full maturity, and it realizes it doesn't like dogs, and it gets into a disagreement, and this information that's already out there now is shared to thousands or millions or whatever, and they're like, look, I want a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and I have 10 other dogs, and so it says here that they get along, let's do it. And then an accident happens, and it's on the news, and it's just a trickle effect, and then it's bad publicity all over again. So yeah, I mean, it's who you're, you got to take all that in consideration. But for the inexperienced person, a breeder or somebody that's maybe into it enough, we can pick that stuff out. But it's harder for somebody that's not maybe around it that much. And again, they want to believe it. I'm a young kid, or I'm a husband that wants to show his wife, and hey, look, it does this, it does that, it does, and it's misinformation, or it's not enough data. You can have one, you know um, placebo effect, whatever it is, it's there's something that's, it's maybe 1 out of 50, or you might just have a different one or whatever. And you really need to kind of, like you said, do your research and gather all the data and make your own choice. But a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, I was talking to uh, uh, Merkel from Quitland Staffords about a
Yeah.
month ago, and that was kind of one of the things that we talked about, and what was on the top of my mind is that we kind of get into this thing of information overload that you know and I'm guilty of that in a lot of ways, not just within the dog world, but in other things. Like I'll research, like real estate stuff for my wife. She'll ask me a question, and then I'll start digging into it and just getting into the weeds of the issue, and then I kind of lose the fact of what I was really trying to what I was really trying to find, and I'm getting overloaded with this information, and I'm not really focusing on what I was really trying to focus on, and that's what I see happens like times 10 with
Oh yeah,
anything
absolutely.
that we try to do. And it's like you can all of a sudden become paralyzed with, say you want to become a breeder or a, a s- a trainer, or you want to get out there and catch hogs with your dogs, and you want to learn and do all those things, and you try to get all this information. And at the end of the day, you just keep trying to hammer all this information in, and you just become information paralyzed, so to speak. And you,
Absolutely.
there just comes a time that you got to get out there and do it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then that information that you've been getting, you can decipher it a little bit better, and you can realize who's giving you the real scoop and who isn't after that.
absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And then when that all that new information, you lose sight of what's important, or what, you know, um, I've seen that a lot. Even just with like people wanting just a pet, and then they get to where they're over analyzing it. It's movement, or it's structure, or they're picking it apart like it's an object or something. And it's, to me, there's so much more to establish a bull terrier that I feel like, even in my breeding a journey, I went from that early on. I overlooked things, or not overlooked, I focused on the wrong things, if that makes sense. I overlooked great dogs because of little things that now, if you told me today, how much would you pay for this dog, or this, to breed to this one or whatever, and people would be, wouldn't believe how much, because uh, looking back, I made the mistake of not seeing the value in it, or over analyzing it, and when it was really just simple black and white. And breeding a lot of times is that, it's as simple as putting two dogs together and finding out and seeing what it is, but we make it very complicated. And I think a lot of reason for that, or for some, it's to justify a reason for it. I'm gonna, breed this dog because whatever, and maybe there's a reason you wouldn't, a health issue or whatnot, but you're saying, but I really love them, and I get that a lot too. I get this pet and he's great, but he has all these problems. But I really love him, and I want a puppy from him or something. And that's and the right thing to do is not to do it. But they're looking at, well, it has good this and that, whatever else, and they do it anyway. So it's it's real easy for me. You really, and even selecting and breeding, it's just time consuming. You really need to take your time and make the hard decisions. I mean, it's easy, but it's not. If you can fall in love with a dog, and it can still be a great dog, but at the end of the day, you got to be honest with yourself, and it's not right for my breeding program either. Maybe even simple as structure. Why are you going to add something in when it's kind of like back breeding, when you've already maybe gotten a problem out. And I don't know, and I see that a lot too. But yeah, for a lot of people, it's just too much over, thinking things and looking into it too much. I painted cars for years, and I kind of miss the days when I didn't see all the dents and imperfections in a vehicle. I used to, I'd see a car and love it and whatever. Now, after years and years of doing body work and painting, and you learn actually to pick out flaws. That's what you do. I would walk up to a vehicle because my job was to find the dents in it, find the imperfections, because I had to fix it. And if the customer came back and you missed the spot or whatever, then you're going to, about it. And the same thing. And maybe that's why I have a good eye on the dogs too. And it's bittersweet. It's kind of a curse. Once you get to that point where you see all the flaws in something, you can never turn it off again. So, and it's a good thing because you're striving for perfection. And at the end of the day, I don't know if you can ever find it, but you keep reaching for that and hoping to get that.
That all comes down to, like I was saying, is uh, just getting out there and doing it. And the big thing that I found in just in my own life, and then what I see in other people, is the fear of failure. And that just, the
Right.
reality is you are going to fail at some point, and you just got to learn to deal with it and to pick yourself up and learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The whole thing's a learning process, and that's the only way to move forward. And then the more you learn, the better you get. It's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, even the fighters and stuff out there, they are learning from their losses. Not so much their wins. I mean, maybe both, but in reality, it's when the old saying, or just when you get knocked down, it's about getting back up.
Mm.
So yeah, you're exactly right, and that's when you're going to learn the most. I mean, I think I've learned the most when I've had issues or had problems. It's it gives you that learning experience that you're going to do everything in your power for it not to happen again.
So to not to throw anybody under the bus, because that's not my style, and I know that's not your style, but kind of tell this is this is a learning experience. Say some of the things that you've been hearing a little bit that kind of spurred that video on, just so we know, and we can learn from some of the things that you've been trying to correct maybe a little bit in your own little community.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think I'm different from a lot of people out there, because for me, it's, I'm not, I don't look at this as a business. It's not a business to me. It's a passion. It's a love, for the breed. So that maybe makes me a little bit more protective. And the same with my family. You can do what you want with me, but not, my family. And so that's kind of, but honestly, what kind of started it for me was, I get people, I get calls all the time and people messaging me and stuff. And then, I get a few people that's kind of been out of shape and they want all this, stuff that maybe I don't know, other breeders give them, like guarantees and promises, broken promises is the way I see it, because they're promising stuff that I'm not willing to promise. I don't know how tall this dog's going to be when it grows up. I can tell you whatever you want to hear if I want to make, a sell or find a home for this dog, or, even a rehome if I get something back. I got somebody that, got kind of upset because I told him it wasn't a good fit. And, it's, my, you missed out, this and that. And, or they're telling me, well, so and so, does this, and so and so, will do this and that and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, and that those people you're mentioning, have never even had a litter before. It's their first litter, or they've only been doing it 2 years. Imagine when you have 10, 15 years in, even 6 years in, and the phone calls start coming in, and you start getting people, you know, having problems and stuff. In reality, you can say all you want. Oh, I'm going to always put the customer first, or whatever they want to say, or I'm always going to be answering my phone, or I'm always going to be whatever. But, it gets difficult. It gets hard. And when you make a promise that you can't keep, and I've always my values and stuff. If I, give my word or shake my hand or shake your hand or look you in the eye and tell you something, I want it to be, me, at least I believe it 110%, and I'm going to do you right. And so that, that's kind of how it spurred and started. And yeah, I just, just listening to stuff and hearing the stuff that's out there, and just promoting even just mixed breeds. I am breeding a bloodline, not even a bloodline, a breed, a purebred dog that's has a lineage, a long history, right? And I still can't pinpoint or know exactly what I'm going to get each time. So how can anybody with a cross or anything like that, even like if I can't with the pure breed, and I'm sure other pure breeders can tell you the same thing, with that, how can you possibly do that with all these outcrosses or these different breeds and stuff? It's really impossible. And the people that out there, there's plenty of breeders out there that know that, but there's some that are ignorant enough because they're new to it. And when I was a kid, come on, let's be real, oh, I want to cross this and this, and you think it's 50-50. It's not like that. Even in breeding, one of the pups in the litter might take 90% of the father's DNA, or 10%, or it might be 50-50. But at the end of the day, you don't know. And yeah, and it just kind of, I don't know, got to me, and I'm like, I'm just going to speak on it because I just feel it needs to be said. And that way, people can take it for how they want, and maybe learn from it, and if somebody takes it the wrong way, then maybe they need to reevaluate, some of the promises and stuff they're trying to give to people.
I see a lot of things changing in the dog world because of the economy and stuff, and I think that some uh, there's a lot of things that are starting to. Uh, I think a lot of people are thinking now, like, how are they going to make this work? And when you've got somebody like yourself who has the infrastructure and a long history, I think people um, can't grasp that, especially if they're new. You know what I mean? I think it's
But yeah, and then yeah, I think that's normal. But yeah, and because I was like that, and that's the thing. And I don't want to. I don't want to discourage anybody, you know, but I don't want them to make the same mistakes, and that's really what it's about. You know, that's what really got to me because I'm like, you know, like I said, some of these dogs that I told you about. I remember speaking to people that knew way more than me, and I said, "What would you use?" Well, I would use this stud, right? And I'm like, "Oh, but that dog's been bred 100 times. That dog's, you know." I had every reason why, and it was more in my head, I guess, because everybody already had it, I didn't want it. But the truth of it was he was the better stud. And so, and now it's so funny because you can't find the blood from this particular dog anywhere now because nobody valued it. Because again, it's just, you know, it's just like back in the day, you know, or any of that when things you can get them anywhere, and now you know you wish you had it because it's worth so much. And that's like that in many dogs, and many bloodlines are like that. It was everywhere, and then nobody valued it, nobody cared about it back then. They thought it would always be there, and then once it's gone, you know. So
Mm,
yeah, that's I guess maybe that's why I'm more passionate about trying to help people out too. I don't know. I don't want to make the same mistakes and stuff, but you know, even I was a sponge when I was growing up. Like I felt like if I would have had some of the stuff now, you know, and I'm still, to me, I'm always, you know, listening and learning, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter who, if somebody has experience, and that's the key for me. That was the one thing I wish I'd done more of. I listened to some people that had no experience, but they sounded like they did, and they led me in the wrong directions. You know, example, veterinarians. You know, I would think that they would know anything about breeding or whatever, and the truth of the matter was they just read books. They didn't breed dogs. I mean, there's breeders out there or veterinarians out there that do breed, but you
mhm,
know, if and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to ask their advice on this and this and this, and thinking putting them up on a pedestal when reality, you know, they're not breeders, they're doctors, you know. So uh so you kind of got to figure, you know, you learn along the way. But I would have loved to had people, and then even now, you know, I mean, I listen to, you know, the podcasts and stuff, and you know, as someone with years of experience, even Marco, I'm listening to him. You know, I'm listening to uh, anybody that's willing, you know, that's out there that has experience, because even if it doesn't work for me, I feel like, you know, it's a tool and it's something else that I can kind of, you know, you know, I ask questions. Would it work for me? You know, or whatever. I don't know. I love learning and stuff like that. So for me, that's great. I mean, I speak to some people now that have been doing it forever, and I get, you know, just excited to talk to them, to ask them questions, to pick their brain, you know, even if it's something that I might feel like I already know. And I always walk away from it learning more, you know, and sometimes it's simple. Like you mentioned, we over analyze things. We have so much knowledge where, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. You know, one of the best advices Ken Hodgins gave me from Intrepid Kennels was, I asked him 100 questions in this day, and he said, "Well, you know what? Try it and find out." You know, and at the end of the day, sometimes we just need to try it and find out. You know, but if everything's pointing in the wrong direction, if I come to you and I say, "Well, you know, this dog has, you know, hip problems, and the parent, this mother, and this father has it, but I want to just try it and see what happens." The truth is, I already know the answer. And the answer is you shouldn't do it. You know, but if I come to you and it's something totally new or something, or both dogs are good, but the bloodline's different, you know, it might be one of the cases where, yeah, you try it and you find out and see, and then you're just honest with yourself. And that's the hardest thing I think for anybody to do, is to be honest with themselves. You know, some people, maybe it's too much. You can be brutally honest. I'm real critical about anything I do where, you know, I can pick it to death, but, you know, but there's, you know, people are different. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, you got to kind of, you know, always take a step back and remember, you know, dogs usually will, I mean, will breed on their own. They don't need help. I mean, and we're just talking in general. I know there's breeds
mm.
out there that do, but it's not rocket scientists. It's not rocket science. It's just kind of, I don't know. But when man steps in, you got to do what's right, and you got to make those hard selections because Mother Nature isn't. if you got problems, health issues, whatever the case is, then you got to think in the wild, would they be able to survive or whatever, or would this be the best stud for this female if he can't, move or anything like that, can't breed naturally. There's things like that to consider.
Are you seeing an uptick with the interest in Staffords, or is it just just kind of the normal?
You
Uh,
know, I'm seeing an uptick on the more of the sporting side of it. I'm seeing a lot more people interested in the hunting side of it, um, and which is, I don't know how to take that because, again, it's not that they're specifically a hunting breed, and then when people, it's kind of more of a novelty, and so when people hear a price or they hear something, then they get offensive or they get angry, or they totally just kind of, well, it's not worth it because it might get killed doing it. And so it's kind of attracting maybe and not everybody, but some people, the wrong type of people too. I've been seeing maybe, and maybe it's kind of how I presented some of my dogs and stuff, but I mean, so, you have both sides. And then, but yeah, I've seen more, and I'm just generalizing, I see a little bit of everything.
mm,
I see a lot more too and that was kind of why I went on my little tangent the other day, was because a lot more, reaching out, thinking they can go to dog parks and they can, and I think there's people out there preaching that this breed can be great with other dogs and this and that. And yeah, they can be on some, but still, it's just like a loaded gun. I don't care if there's no bullets in it. I'm not letting my kid play with it. Like, it's the
mm,
same thing with a dog to me. I'm not going to take it to a dog park because heaven forbid something happens. And it's just, could mine play together? Some of, mine, yeah, sure, maybe. And I'm not talking about male females, right? I'm talking about same sex. But am I gonna take the chances? Why? And I hear this a lot where people are reaching out to me. I want a friend for my dog. Or I want a friend for this dog or for that. Dogs do like other dogs, but Staffordshire Bull Terriers, Pit Bulls, fighting dogs in general, they they're different than the most. They love humans over other animals, and in general, and there's some, yeah, they do like, but in reality, they'll be fine with just a companion human for the rest of their life. That's just how they are. You don't have to socialize them. You don't have to get a buddy for them. Now it makes it easier you want them exercise, they do play with them and stuff. It's less walking, less, stuff. But if you just have a bunch of stray dogs, rescues or whatever, and you just want a buddy for them, it might not be the best, fit for it. There's a lot of other breeds out there that would probably work better.
mm.
But I see a lot more I tell you what, you asked me that, what I have seen a lot more people wanting to breed. And I know you mentioned like the COVID, everybody thought they were going to get rich with COVID. But what I
Mhm.
think it also did was it generated a platform for people, like you and others to have a dialect on it, which is great. But I still think there were people in the background listening, saying, I'm going to do this. I want to breathe. It sounded enticing for them. And again, they're hearing what they want to hear. I think I can make my money back. The prices were this, the prices were that. And and I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm so glad those COVID breeders are gone." I don't think they're gone. I think some of them never even started breeding. And I think right now they're starting to breed in 2025. And whether they get sales or they not, that's what I see, because I still get people, a lot of people are wanting, they just want, can I have breeding papers? I want to be able to breed. I want to be able to breed. And I'm torn because I was at one time wanting, and the thing is, I guess I never really wanted to per se breed. I mean, I did, but I didn't. It was more, when I wasn't able to acquire what I was looking for, and I felt there was a need to better or even keep. something going. Right now, I mean, even then, I could see the fact that there was a breeder out there that was, Intrepid, for example, and there were others that were breeding better dogs than I could have ever bred, and so
Mm.
I was getting dogs from them. But as soon as that left and there was nowhere to go, is when I found, like, well, I'm gonna breed my own, and I'm just gonna do this until I find a breeder that comes along. And that breeder never came, and I just continued to learn and better, and so now I'm at a point where I don't want to lose it, and I have probably too many dogs. And again, this is stuff people need to hear. You want to breed dogs, well, you get to where you're trying to just keep something going, and I feel obligated to it, and I'm taking where I'm getting pulled in so many different directions. I'm having to get rid of dogs that didn't make the cut for my breeding program, and they're great pets, they're great, companions, but I have to be honest. If I'm a breeder, I need to let some of these go, because I just can't feed them just to feed them. That's not fair to them, and it's hard on me. But I found myself with a bunch of dogs, and I'm getting pulled different ways. This breed, like I said, I would love to have just maybe two or three and be fine. And being able to call up somebody if something happened, or when they get too old, and just get another dog. But the truth is, I'm so far into it that I don't want to lose it. And I don't know if there's anybody out there yet that I trust. And I would love for that to happen. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of people. I want to breed. I want to breed. I want to, and I want to be like, and now I want to be like you. I want to preserve the breed. And they don't understand what that even means, like, I want, and yeah, I'm going to do this. So I want to breed like you. And they're already telling me their breeding plans from puppies. They're already telling me, and they're missing the point. Like, and I am an outdoors person, and I want to take more time with my kids, and I want to get the dogs in the woods. But I'm doing all this stuff for my dogs to test certain things, their temperament, their courage, their lack of courage. I want to put them in situations. It's not just about, you know, I can't just say it, I bred this puppy, so I'm going to breed it, and that's preserving the bloodline. If that puppy doesn't, and I'm at a point now where I have a lot of young dogs, the fact is, there's one out there, or maybe more, that's not going to make the cut for breeding. And and I'm honest with myself. You got to be honest with yourself. But there's people out there that's not willing to be honest with themselves. They think it's just, well, I got a Steadfast dog, or I got a whatever dog, bloodline, and I'm gonna make it work. And that's not how you do it. It's not at all. That's not me. And you're not. And I don't know, that's the problem I'm seeing. A lot of people just want to breed. They don't know about the late nights. They don't know about, the other day my air conditioning's messed up, and because my dogs, I'll be honest, they're pissing on the air condition, right? And I'm
Yeah,
just looking at it, and I'm like, they pissed a hole in it because it's
yeah.
corrosive, just like they do, and so now I'm like, I got to fix that, and it's constant. I love them, and that's why I do it, because I do it day in and day out. But you can come and you can pick out, get a puppy from me, and you can see a litter of puppies, and you can get sucked into that. But then, I'm not telling you about the litter that didn't make it, and the
Mm.
mom that struggled to give, to whelp, and and all this other stuff, the one that died in my arms, the little puppy. And it's hard, man. I don't want to see that. I don't like that part of it. And I'm not talking about it, but it's another side that needs to be seen. People see these puppies, they see dollar signs, they see, and they don't see all the other stuff, or they see just a bloodline, and they don't see the work that goes into it, the stuff that I'm honest with myself about, and say this one just doesn't cut it, and it's not that it's a bad dog, it's just not at my standard. And there's people out there that I don't know if their standards are as high as mine. Maybe they're higher, I don't know. But You can't just tell me I want to do what you're doing. To do what I'm doing, you have to have so many years of experience. You have to see so many generations behind them. And again, I want people. I'm not knocking nobody's, thing. You do whatever. This is America. I love America for that reason. And I started somewhere too, but maybe take some of my advice and other people's and learn from it, and try to make it better. But yeah, I didn't mean to get into a tangent on that, but yeah, that's what I've been seeing, man. A lot of that going on. And again, I think a lot of them hadn't even got started until now, or they're watching those old videos and the old spikes and this dog sold for this much, and the bully world and stuff, and they're getting excited over it, and they think it's an opportunity for my breed or something like that. I don't know. And or they classify me just as a hunting dog. And I get a lot of that too. I'm getting where people expect too much. Like, this is an animal, and it's your job to do a lot with it. That they want. I want it to be good with my chicken. I hear you have chickens. I hear you have horses. I hear you have, and they want a puppy. They think I'm making a breed, a puppy that just takes to chickens and takes to cats and takes to livestock, and take that's something you train, you work for. It's what you put in. And so, I heard somebody the other day and I loved it. It's like, what can you guarantee? And the older I get, the less I guarantee. You know what I'm saying? Because and they said something like, I guarantee the puppy's gonna take a piss and a crap. You know what I mean? And that's about it. So, and that's kind of the truth of it, because you really don't know. It's These are animals. And it's nature. It's you're not just carving something out of wood. It's an actual living being, and so many variables. Genetics are unbelievable, and the fact is, anybody that thinks they can guarantee something, it's that you really can't. If you just come to me and talk to me, I'm easy. I'm easy going. I'd probably give you the shirt off my back. I'd give you a new puppy. I'd give you whatever. I'd do whatever I could to help. But I just don't want to get myself in that situation, because it seems like the more and more, I I talk to people, and just my experience with things is, the people that are asking those questions are the ones that are going to give me the most problems, and regardless of whatever it is. And I jokingly said once, I think, I'll give you a lifetime warranty on a dog, but it's going to be an astronomical amount of money, right? So anytime you need another one, because and it's more the headache and the problem that they're going to be, and but I mean, I love my dogs and stuff like that, but I'm brutally honest, and people don't like that. They want to go to somebody that's going to tell them what they want to hear. This dog will catch frisbees and do backflips for them, and I don't play that game. Like, I could play the game, and then when they come back and it doesn't, I tell them, well, look at the contract line 102. It says, if you didn't have it at a trainer at, 8 weeks old, I mean, I've heard I talk to breeders. They say, this is what you need to do. I got a contract, but this is what gets them, So again, and it's funny too. I had one person once, was interested in a dog because I didn't have a contract. They didn't want it. Some people feel that they want that. They think it means something more, just like papers, let's be real. And I fall in that trap. A lot of people they want that AKC paperwork, or they want the UKC, or whatever it is. They want uh, that piece of paper that, let's be real, it doesn't mean anything. And that's even hard for people like me and others to kind of get. I mean, I do. And the truth is, if you have one with papers, that's a crappy dog. Does it even matter if you have one without? So yeah, I get it. Especially these hunting breeds and stuff. Uh, there's plenty of them out there that are just working dogs, and they do the job, and they're priceless. And they don't need papers for that. But yeah.
Uh, Do you register with both UKC and AKC, or neither? Or?
No, I don't. I just do AKC, but I thought of thought of that. Just I guess people can do what they want once they get the paperwork. I've done with ADBA as well because they have some of the more of the sporting stuff, and it just depends. AKC is nice because you can go to any of the other kennel clubs with it. So that's kind of what I try to keep going with my line, because from there I can go just about anywhere, and the person that gets them can transfer them to whatever kennel club.
How is have you had any interactions with the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club of America or anything like that?
I mean, I have. I mean, I've known. I know a lot of the people on it and stuff, and that's a part of it. And I used to know some of the the president, way back when and stuff. So I knew some of the people that managed it a long time ago, and and that's kind of who I get along with. And then there's new, and not that I think they are doing and I've spoken to some. They're doing a good job, when it comes to like the rescues and stuff like that. So I'm not here to badmouth anybody or anything. I kind of stay out of it and let them do their thing. I don't have no hate or nothing like that. And I know my only beef is again and you can look at it, and I've heard this a bunch of times. Maybe it's the judging. Maybe you can blame people like me for not entering their dogs in the show, and I've heard this both ways. How can I select? How can they pick winners that look, say, like my dogs if my dogs aren't there? So I see that as well, but uh, I'm just not into it right now. I'm not into the type of people that seem to do that. Now I do like more the sporting side. I've been to some of the athletic events. They have the fast cat and stuff, which is nice. But yeah, so I kind of just look from a distance and stuff, and they seem to be doing their thing. And there's a little bit of when it comes to puppy sales, it's kind of funny because they really push their club and their if they it's crazy. I don't want to get no hate or nothing, but there's a few groups that they taken over for the breed, which is fine, whatever. But then they kind of push the puppy sales to go check out the breeder page that you pay, donate to this to get it, so again, it's always about money in some ways to even, yeah, everything. That's the way the world is, I guess. And so, yeah, I just kind of stay away, but the rescue and all that stuff, I think they do good with. And again, where I was going with it is even the judges, they're putting certain dogs up, certain types, certain looks, and there's some dogs out there that are showing that don't look bad at all. I'm just I feel like I just have higher standards for a lot of things. So that's where I'm at, and I think we've talked about it before, where just the health issues and the longevity and everything else that they're not looking at, in my opinion, they're just putting, confirmation over, and that's a problem for me. And you don't need a dog with just all drive. There's so many aspects of it. Or, and I've said it before, and I've been, criticized for it. Just a dumb dog that, yeah, it'll chase whatever you throw, but that's not a Staffordshire Terrier. But it'll sure, chase wherever, up a wall, over, back and forth on an A-frame, whatever type stuff. So yeah, I could kind of see that, but I see more the opposite, where they're just looking at one thing. But yeah, I mean, you could see the argument on the other side as well, I guess. Where uh, like Staffordshire Terrier is not a greyhound, so if you just get fixated on it, breeding for fast cat runs, which is a lure course, and it's a timed run. If I'm saying, oh, this is fast, it's fast, it's fast, but I think I heard the video of Marco speaking on it, a little bit, and the way I took that, and I think he was exactly right. It's a gauge, So if you need to use that as a tool, what it is, you can't just breed the fastest running Staffordshire Bull Terrier. It just doesn't make sense. But if you got something that's not moving properly, or maybe it is just so corn cob bulldog you can't run, and you find a stud that's a fast runner and great movement, then that's what you need to do to your breeding program to maybe get it to the next level. And 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 a lot of people need to kind of consider and look at it more openly like that. And same with a lot of things, just confidence, temperament. You can use that for a lot of things. Even maybe you could use it for the show ring if there's some that are just, I don't know, maybe you can kind of get them used to whatever. But if you got one that maybe that's just real confident and not scared of a lot of things.
It really kind of excites me and it spurs my passion on, you know, and it's not on the level of like getting into that information overload, like I was saying. It just what I like about it is it's and because I'm a commerce guy, I believe that people should be able to get their money back into this thing, and they should treat it as a business if they choose to. But at the same time, if you don't have the passion like you have, uh, and the love of the craft, there's no way you should do it because it isn't a, a fruitful business without that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not a short play game, and in the short term, it's going to be a loser if you're just in it for
yeah,
a quick buck. And so, but for me, when I hear people like yourself and Marco talk, it's exciting because Marco was saying like I can see in my own breeding program where I'm lacking basically and where I can go next. What choices am I going to make now? Because I'm out here and I'm seeing my dogs perform. And this is what people do. And you're putting the test, just like when you go out into the field. Like
yeah,
this dog's not going to be this dog's not going to fit what I need. So it's going to move to a home or somebody that is going to want it for what it is because it's not going to fulfill my program. Or hey, this dog surprised me, like you were talking the other day in one of
yeah,
your videos, like you had a keeper that you weren't they this all of a
yeah,
sudden she grew into something and you
yeah,
had
yeah.
no
Well,
idea. I was like,
yeah.
wow, this is
And
crazy.
you know what's
So
interesting with that too, and I thought about it more afterwards. The that same the mother to that dog had done it a litter before too. There was one that had the same, and I ended up just pet homing it to somebody before I even, and then so the second time I was like, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna see. I'm just curious. And it was a good thing, and not that I would do that always, but yeah, I don't know. It's a learning experience, and it taught me something. But yeah, you're exactly right. You got to take a step back and reevaluate things. And it's as easy as it is to say, it's really hard. Even, I'm not going to lie, it's hard for me sometimes because I start saying, I have a brother that breeds with me and stuff. He's not a you know a social media guy or anything like that. It's funny, but so a lot of times I'll bring something to him and say, "What do you think about this?" And he's my older brother by 5 minutes, right? He's
yeah.
always tells he always loves to tell me like it is, and he just tells me direct too. Like, why would you use this dog that's never done this and never done that? You got one right there that's this, and you've seen and you've done. And I'm like, but this is just a certain bloodline. Even I get wrapped up in it, or it's this or it's that. And he's like, yeah, and it could have all these problems, and it could have this, and it could have that, too. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I have that to kind of keep me in check, and vice versa. He'll call me up, and we do this all the time. If you call me and say, "Hey, my dog's having pups," what should I do? And I can tell you everything, or it got, cut up from a hog or whatever. What do I need to do? But when it's mine, suddenly I forget amnesia,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
calling him. He said, "You've done this before, you just do this, do that." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right." So, but yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear those sorts of things because um, that's the craft. That's what.
It's the difference between a masterpiece and somebody just finger painting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, we had, yeah, I mean, and I think some people, if that's what they want. And two, there's a difference too. Some people starting out, maybe they need to guarantee more. Maybe they need contracts to get people to I don't know, get their name out there and stuff. My thing is, I think they should try to work with, and I'm one of those, the whole mentor thing. I think it gets pushed around too much sometimes, but in reality, as corny as it sounds, you kind of need, and you don't have to. I'm not big on somebody just has to give me credit, because I think the mentor side of it, a lot of things, I hear people say, well, I have to give thanks to this person and this person and this person. At the end of the day, you're the one going out there feeding all the dogs. And I'm not trying to sound like this or that, because I have people I really admire and look up to, and they helped me along the way. But in reality, it was me and my brother going out there and doing what we had to do, making the decisions, doing it. And same
Mhm.
with some of these people. But they also need to kind of have somebody that they can kind of bounce ideas off of. And if you ask me something, I'm pretty honest. I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't, and that might be, I might not give you 150 reasons why you shouldn't. But if I say I don't know, I probably wouldn't. Then maybe you should kind of take my advice on that and kind of run with that, or vice versa. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Try it. See what happens. There's not enough of that out there, and but yeah, some people maybe they can't get their foot in the door, but I think there's plenty of avenues for that. And I'm not somebody that, if I know somebody that has a litter of pups or can help out, or closer, or fits maybe more their standard, more sporting type, and this person specializes in it. I have a friend that's that had a litter and stuff, and he's a trainer. And so if I want somebody that wants a certain type dog for training and stuff, I'm going to send them to him, because he's going to be able to walk them through some of that training, maybe even offer training before the puppy even leaves, or he's going to have a better idea of what puppy's going to be best for that training. I'm not ignorant. I can train a dog, but I don't know, for certain things or whatnot. And again, that's just me being brutally honest. Maybe I'm not confident enough in myself to just, yeah, it's gonna, because I think it's just too much stuff for somebody to mess up. You can ruin a good dog. I've said it before, time and time again. And I've had people that I feel that they've ruined dogs. You'll never know. I ended up getting them back, and just never even bred to them, because I worry if it's genetic, or if it was something they did, and they either grew out of it or got better or whatever, with just more working and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects to this that people need to consider, and maybe that's my problem. I've just seen so much. I I don't know. I'm hesitant on just promising up and down, and maybe a little superstitious too. But the more I feel like you're saying this is going to happen with dog breeding, it doesn't. This is going to take posting this litter before it even happens. But it excites me. I get excited about it, because I'm like, I like the passion and stuff. I got a friend in the UK. He got one of my dogs, and he breeds and stuff. And I'm honored that he'd even want something from me and stuff. But I'm curious too to see what he does with it. And he's doing his own thing. But it's cool, man. Yeah, it's neat. And I'm learning from other people, learning from him, learning from everybody. Once you stop learning, I think that's the problem, when you think you know it all. And I've seen those breeders where they get so set in their ways, and I don't want to ever be that way.
Here's an interesting question because say somebody gets one of your dogs and you know you you value them as a human being, and they listen to you on kind of the technical side of it, but they go a different direction. Um, but they use some of your blood as a baseline, but they go a completely different direction than you would.
Yeah.
But uh, how does that make you feel? Them using your bloodline to go that direction, does that make you cringe, or you just say, "Hey, that's cool. That's their thing," and or
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, a little bit of the second, that's their thing, and a
Yeah.
part of me gets excited, I'll be honest with you. I'm one of those that I wanna see what it does too. I'm curious. Maybe it's that artistic side of me, you know? I I don't know, and good or bad, like it or not, that whatever they're doing, I see it as, well, because breeding, the list is the way it is. In 5 years, I'll know if today's breeding worked, you know? So in 5 years, mine fizzle out. They're not what I want. Well, I take a look over, his yard and say, "Hey, I'm liking what you're doing. What's your results? What's your, send me something." Well, I see that as and that's an outcross. It's not an outcross, but it is because it's several generations or a couple generations with some a little bit of new blood in it. Maybe that's
Mhm.
all it needed. Maybe that's the formula. Because who am I to say this is going to work? I actually am more excited because I feel like some other people are able to take maybe more risk with my stuff than even I feel, because I feel like I'm trying to be careful and take baby steps and preserve. And I'm not doing anything crazy like I did 20 years ago. I was making crosses and just doing and wanting to stud and just see what happens with my stud dogs and I'm
Mhm.
still like that. But in my yard, I keep it very exclusive. And I was talking to a guy the other day about this, a friend, and he has one of my dogs, and he said, "I hope you're not offended. I'm thinking about this blood, doing this and whatever." And I'm like, I said, I'm just too scared to try it because I have all my chips are right here. But if you want to try it, and I'll be totally curious if it works, because and it sounds bad if it crashes and burns, and I'm like, oh, okay. But if it works
Mhm.
out, then hey, maybe I can work some of that into
Yeah.
mine. And yeah, I mean, I'm not kennel blind at all. My thing is I just don't know many people out there that will be truthful with it or even know what their bloodline that they're putting in. But after some years gone by and some stuff proved themselves out, yeah, I'll be willing to try it. So yeah, I kind of get excited with it, man. I want to see that. And same with in the UK and stuff, I want to see maybe 5, 6, 7 years, what comes from it and stuff. And now that I feel a little bit safer sleeping at night, because heaven forbid something happens to my dogs, or they can't, the world we live in, so much stuff can happen. And at least it wouldn't all be gone. Or like I said, maybe what I'm doing ends up not working and I need to take another route. Or it doesn't work for them, and I learned, well, that that didn't work. So yeah, no, I think that's yeah, I don't mind it one bit, and I kind of I like to see that, uh, and see what people can kind of come up on their own, and maybe come full circle, one day.
Yeah, it's easy for me to think this way because I haven't bred. I'm kind of on the outside looking in, but for me, just thinking about it and watching people and cheering them on, I find that exciting. Like even with my stud dogs that I have
Yeah,
now, I would be like, oh man, yeah, if I found something and I thought it would be cool, I'd definitely allow them to be use my dog.
yeah.
You
Well,
know what
that's
I
what's
mean?
so funny. I wish some people would have talked to me sooner, because I'm like, no, you should have went. I got a friend. I'll talk to him, and this dog. And they're like, why? And I already have been stuck, and I do that. Like, I have resumes on dogs. Like, I've been following them for 10 years, and I've been speaking to the breeder, and I've been, and people, you were, yeah, I know them, and yeah, and this is the ones you want, and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I follow stuff, and I hear things, and and again, but no, and there's things in my head. if I could just keep a million dogs, I would,
Yeah,
but I just don't have the space. And
yeah,
the fact is, I'm limited to I'm barely able to do what I'm doing now. But if anybody else is willing to take on these projects, I'll even help tell you where to spend your money and what to import, or what to, or what person to get the next one from, because I'm curious about it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a friend of mine in Tennessee just did a breeding, and it's interesting. We co-own a male together, and he used and the male. And as much as I like to say, oh, it was just my dog, or this and that, the truth is, no, it takes both of them. But it seemed to be it produced very well. They're still young, they're still a lot, and I don't want to get too excited. I'm sure, not that, I'm just excited for them. But it's cool. I get excited about stuff like that when it works, and when it goes into fruition. So good for him. And hopefully, yeah, I like people to succeed. And if my anything that I have is a little part of the puzzle, that the piece that kind of makes it work or helps it, I'm happy for it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. No, I like that. Well, I'm gonna end it right here, and then I'm gonna restart it